Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of A Cup of Laurenade. We're here for episode 3 and I'm really excited to be back again talking to you guys today. Last week's episode was very well received and I'm very grateful for the encouraging comments and feedback that I received because that episode involved a lot of vulnerability and a lot of truth telling. And so I'm very glad at the response that I got, and I really appreciate my lovely listeners and viewers for making me feel like seen and heard on that topic. So it's very nice and very encouraging. And I definitely want to be able to show some vulnerability during this podcast because I really believe that it's important to talk about these kinds of things and share some personal experiences with listeners and hopefully help people feel like they're not alone. And yes, so as I'm sure you've seen by the title, this week's podcast is about the struggles of being a small content creator. And as a small content creator myself, I thought this would be an incredible episode to film. I would have loved to have a guest, but unfortunately I only have one microphone and do not have the funds to purchase another microphone as of yet. But hopefully in a few weeks I will be able to have a nice guest on the show to talk about this topic even further. But for today it's just me and we're going to scratch the surface and delve slightly deeply into this difficult topic and maybe quite sensitive topic. Hopefully I don't cry again on this episode. So yeah, today's drink of choice is an iced matcha latte, which I used making the matcha kit that Sammy got me from Japan. So I'm very excited. I think I've finally mastered my matcha making skills. And it is lovely in my little glass tumbler that I bought. So it's just amazing. It's so delicious. I do make it with oat milk and I feel like the oat milk just gives some nice added flavor, I guess. A little bit of sweetness, but not too much. So I'm definitely loving my matcha latte today. So before we get onto the main topic of today's podcast, as always, we're going to be doing Ick of the Week. Wow, you guys get to listen to my amazing singing skills, I think, each week. Am I improving? I'm not sure, but I definitely do need a little intro for Ick of the Week because it is a fantastic segment in my show. But yes, this week's Ick of the Week is actually a bit of a difficult one to talk about, but it is something that really annoyed me this week. And it is something to do with the podcast, funnily enough, and comments left on the podcast and maybe things that people want this podcast to be about. But basically, my ick this week is people constantly asking about world friends and asking for me to make content about it or to talk about it on the podcast. I mean, I think it's fair enough because a lot of my followers and subscribers did come from world friends, but obviously if it was something I wanted to talk about, then I think I probably would have. But it's just becoming a bit frustrating to kind of feel like that's the representation of me, whereas my content really doesn't have anything to do with it. So, as I'm sure you can imagine, it's quite frustrating because I'm very clearly putting out content that I want to put out, such as like skincare, vlogs, makeup, that type of content that makes me happy and content that I find very relevant to myself and others like me. And so it's very, I don't know, kind of almost like hurtful in a way that people still constantly see me as like just Lauren from World Friends. And obviously I really appreciate the fact that I was able to gain a lot of traction from World Friends, but honestly my content really doesn't have anything to do with it. So people constantly like asking for me to talk about it. Oh, when will you be back on there? And blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a very small part of my life. And so, I don't know, it's a little frustrating for me to constantly have people asking about it. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. And so I just wanted to talk about this as my ick of the week to kind of let you guys know that this podcast is not about world friends, which I did comment about on the first episode as well. But also just, I don't know, I don't want to say get over it because that sounds really mean, but like honestly, I'm trying to do my own thing here and it's really kind of like a slap in the face every time it gets brought up. I love world friends. I'm sure I'll be on it a lot more times in the future, but I also don't want that to be the only thing that I'm known for, as I'm working my arse off to try and be successful with my own content. So yeah, overall for my ick of the week, I don't want to sound like ungrateful or anything because I know a lot of you came from world friends, but I just want to put it out there that like my content is not about that and it won't be about that. So I just kind of wanted to let you know, and that I feel slightly offended by you always bringing it up. So I wanted to address it in the most polite way possible, but that was my ick of the week. Moving on to my lovely listeners' ick of the week is PDA, or extreme PDA in public. For those of you who don't know, PDA stands for public display of affection or public displays of affection. So PDA is a bit of a, I don't know, a touchy subject here, I would say, in that Korea is quite a conservative society. And, you know, young couples do get scolded for like hugging or showing a lot of PDA in public places, such as the subway. Like, I've had a Korean friend who was like hugging her boyfriend on the subway, and she got absolutely cussed out by an old lady, which I get that like no one really wants to see you hugging your partner on the subway, but like if you're just saying goodbye and like hugging someone goodbye, or I'm not really sure of the circumstances, I think maybe there's like a line, but where is the line, you know? And so some couples here are extremely heavy with their petting. I mean, like literally straddling each other and making out in public places when there's kids around. I don't know how I feel about it. For one, it makes me uncomfortable. So I literally dread to think what is going through these children's minds. I don't even want to think about it. Like that's... I'm not too sure how I feel about this topic, but there was an incident actually about, I would say, a month ago. And I was in a cafe waiting for my friend who I was meeting for dinner. And a very, very small cafe. It had literally 3 tables, one of which was like the window counter kind of table. And so there was someone there doing work, me on another table, and then there was an empty table. And a couple came into the cafe and they sat, you know, on the other table, which was directly in my eye line. Nothing I can do about it. It's a small cafe. This couple literally would lean over the table to kiss each other every 5 seconds, maybe even less, every 3 seconds. I am not exaggerating. It was horrendous. They were just like touching each other and like kissing and like being like, oh, and I was wearing my huge Apple headphones, you know, with the noise cancelling and everything. I could still hear these people going. Clearly there's like me working and this other guy working. Okay, I get it. You can do what you want in a personal... No, you can do what you want in a public space to a certain degree, but do you not have any common sense? Like, I was giving this couple the most awful side eye. Like, you do not want to see my side eye when I'm in a bad mood. And I would let out the most ridiculous sighs and be like, ugh. Okay, at that point, I think you would kind of check yourself a little bit and be like, okay, maybe we're disturbing other people. Maybe this is slightly disrespectful to other customers or something like that. No, they honestly didn't. They didn't care. Props to you for being absolute. Ooh. Props to you for being absolutely in love and whatever, but geez, like, have some basic human manners to others. Like, it was so extreme. Like, I don't care if it had been like a couple of times. I'm not exaggerating. It happened for 30 minutes straight, every 5 seconds, kissing, touching, leaning over the table, making these stupid noises. And in the end, I just got up and left. At the same time, I was like, why is the owner of the cafe not telling them to shut up? Because it was so extreme. Like, I was genuinely surprised that they didn't just pounce over the table and start. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, that was it. That was some very severe PDA. So I understand this lovely listener who sent this in, who's actually one of my very close friends. And yeah, so sometimes the PDA here can be extreme, to say the least. Not to say that it's not extreme in other countries, because it is, but that one specific example that I remember, oh my gosh, I just couldn't get over it. I was like, Apple, I want a refund. Why can I hear these people kissing and making all these weird noises with my, noise cancelling? And so yeah, that was another ick of the week. It's great. I feel like I can just rant during ick of the week. I hope you guys don't mind me ranting. As always, if there is something you want to submit as your ick of the week, drop me a DM, leave a comment on the video. There's also a Reddit page, which I will link down below, where you can submit anything that you want me to talk about, etc. And so that is it for the first segment of the podcast and this week's ick of the week. So for the main segment of this podcast, we're going to be talking about the struggles of being a small content creator. And as a small content creator myself, I thought it would be a perfect episode to sit and have a chat with you all and talk about some problems that we may face, and also let some of you who aren't content creators kind of understand the struggles that we may go through. And so yeah, firstly, what is a small content creator? Now, I couldn't find a definitive answer on the internet. However, just from my common knowledge, I would say that a small content creator would be a nano or a micro influencer. And now a nano influencer has between 1,000 and 10,000 followers. And a micro influencer may have between 10,000 and 100,000 followers. Now, the jump between the two of those is immense. The difference between 10,000 and 100,000 followers is very significant. However, they are still grouped in the same bracket. And so for a small content creator, I would say that could be somebody with less than 100,000, although it could be much smaller than that. I just want to put an emphasis on the fact that it should be less than 100,000. But obviously, it's kind of up to anyone to decide for themselves, as I really couldn't find a definitive answer on the internet. So let me know what you think. But anyway, I did ask some others to share their thoughts, and I have a lot of friends who are small content creators, and thank you very much to all my lovely friends who submitted their feelings and thoughts. And I'm very, very grateful for your input and helping me out with this episode, because obviously we do share similar struggles, but also individuals have their own stories and challenges that they face also. So I thought it was very important to gain some knowledge from other people, as well as sharing my own experiences and opinions. So the first thing someone shared with me was the feeling of needing to look perfect in order to grow. And I completely agree with this. I feel like there is a definite pressure to look and appear 100% perfect, to have a perfect life, perfect skin, perfect hair, very nice fashion sense, and all of that for you yourself to be perfect in order to gain followers and subscribers. And this, I hate to say it, I feel is very, very true, especially as someone who obviously has a lot of trouble with acne and skin related problems. And as a creator who wants to, and as someone who's doing skincare and makeup related content, it's a very, very big issue. And often brands will not want to work with someone with imperfect skin, imperfect in, quotation marks, and that perfection, is just a societal construct, Oh, I really got deep in there. I should write an essay on it, flippin' heck. But you know what I mean. So I definitely resonated with this. And, people want to follow people who seem perfect, who, spout all of this wellness stuff that they may not necessarily believe in, but, people will fake it until they make it. And it's quite funny. But obviously, like, looking and, like, giving off the impression that you are perfect, unfortunately, it works. And at the same time, it builds crazily unrealistic expectations for people wanting to start creating content, feeling that you can't start creating content unless your life is perfect, your house is perfect, your face is perfect. Because honestly, it put me off creating content for years. Absolutely years. But then I came to realize that, in fact, nobody is perfect. And that's what I really want to get through with my content. And I do try to put out my insecurities onto the internet to help everyone feel normal, because everyone should deserve to feel beautiful. And having these crazy expectations on content creators is kind of forcing them to create content like that. And then therefore spreading this kind of false imagery even further. So it's actually a much bigger issue than people may think it is. Okay. Another thing that a lot of people did say to me, and also I completely agree with, is brands thinking that products are a form of payment. Now, this is a huge, huge issue, because as a smaller creator, oftentimes brands don't have the budget to pay smaller creators, as they've already spent it paying, their macro influencers, people with more than 100,000, people with millions of followers. And so there's very little budget left for smaller creators such as myself. Or the brands just straight up don't want to pay you. We don't know for certain, because, those kinds of things aren't usually communicated. But the amount of times that I have had brands reach out and just be like, oh, we don't have a budget, or I'm sorry, but it's only a gift, but we want you to make a reel or make a video. And it literally blows my mind every time, because I'm just like, how can you ask people for free labor to promote your own products? Like, it still shocks me to this day that people actually have the guts to write this down. I'm just like, do you not have a kind of, I don't know, a moral compass? Obviously, the person reaching out to you isn't necessarily the person who wants to do this. But I'm just like, damn, I could not even think about trying to ask someone to do such a thing as making basically a free ad for a company. Like, mind blown, genuinely mind blown. And obviously, like, oh, okay, it's good for building up a portfolio and that kind of thing. So when you are a very, very small creator and you may not have worked with a lot of brands, that is one side. And then on the other side, I do see it as a good opportunity Okay, in that, especially if you're a very small creator and you haven't got a lot of brands on your like collaboration roster, then obviously if it's a very famous brand, then it could be a great opportunity in that you can now put this collaboration on your media kit and use it as ways to get paid collaborations in the future. And then obviously if you build up a strong relationship with this brand, then you may be able to work with them later. But oftentimes brands will not specify that. I have had brands that I've worked with for free, but on the preface of being able to work with them for a long time, which is absolutely fine. That is absolutely fine. But you will get completely random brands reaching out and then just like ghosting you afterwards. This has happened to me so many times, and it does make me a lot more cautious. At the end of the day, I can't pay my rent, my phone bill, my insurance with skincare or makeup or hair products or whatever. So it is a huge problem for small creators because we're just fighting. We need money to survive, like everybody, and it can be a real kick to the face when a brand, it does feel like a brand almost doesn't regard you as good enough to receive payment for your work, which really is very discouraging. Like, it's really not good for your self-worth. And so, yeah, as a smaller creator, it can be pretty discouraging. So if you are listening, just know your boundaries. Don't let people take advantage of you, and try to spin it in a way that it could become a paid collaboration. Send your media kit. You can explain that maybe you don't have the capacity to go for an unpaid collaboration, because obviously, like, if you are a small creator, you may have a full-time job at the same time. You can't afford to spend your time making free content for brands, because you have to think about yourself first. But like I did say, it could be a great way to build a relationship with a brand, which I'm always grateful for those kinds of opportunities. But, I think you'll be able to tell by the way that the brand presents itself whether or not it is a kind of trustworthy collaboration. So just, I don't know, be cautious, know your limits, know your boundaries, don't let people take advantage of you, and try your best to turn it into a paid collaboration. Honestly, asking, it doesn't really hurt, does it? You can just ask at the end of the day. But obviously, each to their own. Do what you want. I'm not saying like you should operate this way, but yeah, I just wanted to share that because I think some people who aren't creators may not know that this happens a lot, especially in the beauty industry. So yeah, I always think about that meme, and it's just like, when someone goes to pay the bill and you like open your bag and there's like nothing inside. It just made me think of that, and just like me opening my bag to like loads of skincare and makeup that brands have sent me to be like, oh, it's gonna try and pay with this. Yeah. It's kind of devastating, really, that that's the reality of it, but hopefully things will improve. The next one that somebody sent is the algorithm changes pretty frequently. Once you feel like you've figured it out, there's a new update. Now, this is very, very difficult because also each social media platform has a different way that the algorithm works. And trying to understand the algorithm is very difficult. It's a very difficult concept to grasp, and it does change frequently. Instagram changes the way that it likes to push your content up. There was something that said, if you're on Instagram 15 minutes before, then post, and then stay on 15 minutes after, then it can help push your content up through the algorithm. Previously, they wanted you to, use as many hashtags as you want, and nowadays that can be seen as spamming and may, reduce your growth on your content. And so nowadays they recommend about 4 to 5 hashtags, and things like these are very, very difficult to keep up with. I find myself going crazy trying to understand the algorithm and try to work out the best time to post, whether or not I should include hashtags or whether I should just really focus on my captions and all of that stuff. So this really is difficult. And yeah, the algorithm changes all the time. The things that the social media platforms want change all the time. So you do feel like you're constantly having to also do research into how these platforms work, which can take up a lot of time and a lot of planning. So that's definitely another difficulty for just any creator, to be honest. But obviously for smaller creators, growth and getting your videos, your photos and everything out there is a lot more important, I feel. So definitely a big one. So the next one is having to rely on likes, shares, comments, and saves, etc. to help your business grow because your content can't reach as many people. So previously, likes and comments were very important for platforms such as Instagram. Nowadays, shares and saves are a lot more important. And obviously, depending on the type of content, you could be getting way less saves and shares. You know, obviously, like funny videos will get crazy amounts of shares and saves because people want to share that or save it for them to look at later. For other content like makeup or I don't know, daily life related content, it could be a bit more difficult to get shares and saves. I definitely took a big hit for this switch because the type of content I create, I can't necessarily see people sharing it that much because I'm doing like skincare and makeup looks. People do share it, and if you share it, I love you very much. But yeah, so this really, I think, changed the way that creators like me have their content boosted in the algorithm. And so that was not a great switch. So it's definitely difficult to try and think of ways to get your content to be shared and to be saved by others. So definitely an added stress, to be honest, on that part. Back onto the subject of finances, in that, you know, some brands don't want to pay you. Some brands will pay you, but they pay very little. And I don't know if this is just a thing in Korea, but it appears that brands don't pay as much in Korea as they do in the States, for example. And I know creators in the States get paid much more than we do with the same follow count. And obviously, maybe there's more funding for these brands in the States and everything. Like, obviously, things are relative to each country, but because the pay is, you know, not necessarily sustainable for smaller content creators, oftentimes we have full-time jobs on the side or part-time jobs or whatever, or are studying at the same time. And this is wild because you end up doing 2 full-time jobs at the same time. I really don't know how, when I was in that lab for more than 60 hours a week, I do not understand how I managed to release a YouTube video every week. Like, I would just film it on the Saturday and then edit it and then release it on the Sunday. How did I do that? I really don't know how, but during that time I was not very active on Instagram. So I don't know how people keep up with all of these different social media platforms. Nowadays, it's a bit easier for me because I'm not working full time, but I have friends who work full-time jobs and do YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and you are flipping incredible. Like, I don't know how you do it. You're so inspirational and so hardworking, but I do think people maybe, I do think a lot of people who aren't creators may see content creation or influencing as like not a real job, but honestly, the kind of mental load that you have to take on with content creation is insane. And people work their asses off to try and do this as a full-time job whilst working a full-time job. So honestly, props to you. And just keep working hard, but also please take some time for yourself because I really know how tough it can be. And burnout is a real bummer and a really difficult thing to try and pull yourself out of. Another problem is, as a small creator, that you may feel, especially working a full-time job, you may feel that everything is content. And so that was what it was like for me working in the lab and then having I didn't even have Saturday off. Okay, never mind. Having one afternoon on a Saturday and then having Sunday off. that everything during that free time becomes content because you don't have time to film content any other time. And so you find yourself with literally zero free time, which is really not good for you. And I feel like I'm shouting at you when I literally do this to myself. So I feel like I'm being quite hypocritical by saying this to you people listening. But yeah, balance is obviously important. But then at the same time, if you're working a full-time job, when are you going to, record your content, and when are you going to edit it and everything like that? So it's just like, woo, everything in your brain all the time. And so, yeah, I think life can be a little bit draining when you see everything as content. And I've really found myself doing that in the past and trying to literally not film everything that I do and try to spend time with friends and loved ones off camera and everything like that. And it can be difficult when you think, wow, this would make a great video, or wow, I would love to share this, but also life is about more than content. But it can be difficult to see it like that at times. I know a lot of you will completely resonate with this. Okie dokie. Another one that I got submitted anonymously was watching people who started after you go viral can be discouraging. And when you feel like your hard work isn't paying off. Not to say that people aren't trying hard, but still. Okay, this one I understand. I have had friends who started after me on YouTube and completely surpassed me. That's absolutely fine. I'm very, very proud of them, and they work so hard to get to where they are. But obviously, like, as someone who's been making videos for like 3 years now, it's extremely discouraging to see people grow in such a short period of time. And it really makes you question yourself, like, why am I not good enough? Like, why has this not happened to me yet? What am I doing wrong? Why is my content not being appreciated almost? I know it's being appreciated, but you really get in your head about this. Please don't get me wrong when I'm discussing this, but it really, really gets to you. And, you work so, so, so hard, and people who, it's really hard to say because obviously you don't know how hard people are working behind the scenes. But in some cases, it's fair to assume that people aren't working particularly hard and then suddenly blow up out of nowhere. It's just the way the world works. Unfortunately, some people may be blessed by the algorithm gods. I don't know what to do to get there. Trying so very hard to get there, but still nothing is helping. But we're not giving up. But yes, I do completely understand how this person is feeling. It can be very, very discouraging, and you do definitely question yourself, your self-worth, your abilities to edit, your abilities to create content. Is it the wrong genre? Are you, not... Do people not like you? That's a very big thing. It's like, am I annoying? Do people hate me? Like, why is my content not doing well? I'm pretty sure everyone who's creating content can understand this completely. You face a lot of walls and a lot of things that discourage you to want to create content, but let's try and stay positive. I know it's hard. Trust me, I flipping know that it's hard, but keep working hard and hopefully we will be rewarded in the future. So next I'm going to talk about my experiences being a small content creator personally. And I'm being very, very vulnerable sharing this. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about some different things, some similar to what we've just discussed, but some more personal takes on struggles of being a small content creator. So for me, there was a huge disaster. I had a massive disaster in my content creator life, in that I was very, very late to TikTok. And now this is because I wasn't 100% sure that I was interested in short form content. Coming from a background of doing YouTube videos, short form content at first was a very strange thing to me. I had literally no interest in it. I didn't want to do it. I almost thought that the trend would blow over. Clearly it didn't, but there we go. I did get to short form content on YouTube and Instagram. However, I avoided TikTok like the plague. Primarily because of the target audience, I feel like I did not resonate with Gen Zers. Although I myself could be classed as a Gen Z or a millennial, every website says different things. I was born in 1997. No one knows where to place us. Some places say we're Gen Z, some places say that we're millennials. I myself don't know where I fit. But since I have an older sister and I was very much influenced by things she liked, I feel like I fit slightly more with millennial with a sprinkle of Gen Z. But I know some people out here in the comments will be like, you're definitely a Gen Z. You're born in 1997. Anyway, kind of really the point. So basically, I didn't really want anything to do with TikTok because, for one, I kind of saw it as a waste of time. And two, I really didn't like the kind of content that was on TikTok at that time. And so I was very, very late to TikTok. I only downloaded it about 6 months ago, and at first I just didn't upload anything on there because also at that time brands weren't particularly interested in TikTok. However, now, very recently, it's become their preferred social media platform. And so for someone like me who joined TikTok extremely late, this is a huge problem. A huge problem. I have less than 200 followers on TikTok. So if you're listening, please go and follow me on TikTok. It's @_Laurenade. Please help a girl out because I was so late to TikTok. And yeah, it's honestly really biting me in the arse at the moment. And a lot of brands almost don't want to work with me because of my lack of TikTok following, which is honestly quite heartbreaking because I'm like, wow. That one decision I made those years ago has affected me so much now. And like, I almost feel like it's too late to try and grow on TikTok. And I know so many of my lovely friends who are big on TikTok. They're like, you can grow overnight. Like, it's okay. Just keep putting the content out there. And I am trying. I upload pretty much every day on TikTok, but I'm not seeing any growth, to be honest, literally zero growth. And I shouldn't let it discourage me, and I should keep trying, but when a lot of things are going wrong with your content and with your numbers, I think it's very difficult to remain motivated. And so that's a big issue at the moment. And I've been extremely burnt out from creating content for the past 2 to 3 months, actually. And this whole like TikTok thing is like, I don't know, just above my head and like really putting a downer on everything. And I feel like I'm just not good enough at what I'm doing. And I'm almost like, why am I doing this? To be honest, like I've wanted to give up making content many times, especially over the past few months, because I see numbers declining, people unfollowing, people unsubscribing, and I think it's difficult to not get bogged down in the numbers, because the numbers, as a scientific person, numbers are everything. And so I'm just kind of like, why am I doing this? And I've literally had these thoughts multiple times a month for the past few months. And so obviously I've got this huge, I don't know, black cloud hanging over my head about content. And I do feel like it is affecting my content in a way, because I'm just kind of like, oh, well, even if I put it out there, it's not going to do well. So what's the point? And I've really noticed that it's taken a toll on how I edit, my desire to make content, honestly, my desire to do anything. And it's really difficult to try and pull myself out of this rut. And I won't lie, I've literally cried 4 times today because I think I'm extremely burnt out with my content. But I did want to make this podcast because it's very important to me. And I think it's almost the perfect time to make this episode of the podcast when I'm feeling my lowest about my content. And I do just want to share with maybe smaller creators than me to not feel discouraged, because obviously I really do enjoy it. But please know that it's not only you who feels this way. And I'm sure bigger creators than me have also struggled with this. And, you know, for those who aren't creators, I do want you to realize that this isn't an easy job like a lot of people think it is. Like, it really does take a toll on you. And yeah, it's not all like rainbows and wellness and well-being. Like, we struggle a lot for content. So just kind of wanted to share that. And wow, that was extremely vulnerable. I'm going to have a sip of matcha. A sip, but I just had like 5 gulps. Okay. So it's actually getting dark because I've been talking about this for so long. And the last thing is, being a small creator, you may get treated differently to larger creators. And I personally felt this at an event recently. Not going to tell you which event for obvious reasons, but the event that I went to was a skincare event, and there were much bigger creators there at the time that I went with my friends. And honestly, I think we just timed it very, very badly. I was trying to get opinions from others to see if they had the same experience as us, but we were pretty much ignored by the staff, because I guess that they didn't really know who we were, or kind of they were too busy with bigger creators and like celebrities. So we basically got completely ignored. No shade to these creators, because absolutely love you, but it was just it really made us feel terrible about ourselves, because I was so excited for this event because I actually love this brand and I was so excited to be invited. And then that happened and I left with an extremely sour taste in my mouth, and it gave me a really horrible impression of the brand in the end, which sucks for them because, I feel like they could have handled it a lot better. But it is what it is. And one of my bigger creator friends, I was talking to her about this, and she said she felt the same at events with people with millions of followers. And so she was like, it doesn't really get better no matter how much you grow. It's just a bit of a shame that we can't all be treated nicely, and that it really does have to depend on your follow count as to how people respect you. Because I would never, ever treat somebody differently just because they have more or less followers than me. Like, everybody deserves to be treated with respect. Like, it genuinely blows my mind that people can be so shallow. And I do have to remember that I'm basically in that kind of work, and that people are very shallow. So it really it hit me deep. It hit me deep down. I was like, damn, okay, this is the reality. It's a very shallow industry, and yeah, I will be treated badly because I have, not as many followers as other people. So if this has also happened to you, do not be discouraged. It kind of just comes with the job, I think, at the end of the day. But as long as you maintain your respect for yourself, I think that's the main message to take away from this, and the main thing that I learned from this experience. And yeah, so this is a very, very long podcast episode. It's literally going dark outside right now, like wow. But I was hoping to have time to talk about this and how we can kind of deal with this and work on this. And so I'll briefly discuss some things that I try to do, great experiences that I've had and that maybe you can also try. And so yeah, how can we work on this? So the power of collaborating with other small creators. this is an amazing thing that you can try if possible, is collaborating with people who are also part of your community, of the smaller content creator community. You can really share your knowledge, share experiences, work together, create some amazing content together, and hopefully mutually benefit from that. There are also communities here in Seoul which are for smaller creators like Aga Skin and Nuri Lounge, which I've worked with before, and they really do give you an amazing community feel. I don't really know what it would have been like without them, because when I really got into content, like, like properly, they've always been there, and I think that they definitely helped like mold and guide me with creating content. So if you have any opportunities to work with an influencer content creator community, I definitely recommend this. But just having friends who are also doing content is a very helpful thing, because they won't judge you about like taking videos of everything, and also help you, and you can give each other advice. I'm so grateful to have such amazing friends who also do this, and we can just give each other advice, support each other, help each other film, bounce ideas off each other. Like, it's just an amazing thing. And I'm so grateful to all of you for being here with me through this journey. Like, I do not know what I would do without you. And another thing is making sure you have time for yourself. Okay, I know we touched on this and said, people working full-time jobs and also doing content creation full-time, they can really struggle with this because there's not a lot of time. But as someone who's been burnt out multiple times, I cannot encourage you enough to take a break. I say this, and I've literally not been on holiday in like 4 years. But taking a break is extremely, extremely important. And you, in the end, will be able to put out better content. I did take short breaks from content, and I did notice when I came back, I bounced back. I think I do need a break at the moment. So I may be taking a very small break from releasing vlogs for the next week or so. So please do excuse me on that, but I really do need some time to recuperate. And yeah. Another thing is, okay, it can be hard to appreciate how far you've come, especially being obsessed with numbers and statistics. I find it very difficult to grasp how amazing I'm actually doing. And it can become very easy to be unappreciative of the growth, because checking every day, it doesn't feel like you're really going anywhere. There's a lot of this. And so, it can be really difficult, and you don't see as much growth as you would hope to see. And it can be very discouraging. So the main takeaway is that think about how far you've come in the past 6 months or the past year. And obviously everybody's journey with content creation, the timeline is different for everyone, but I know it can be hard to appreciate it at the moment. But just take a step back, look at how far you've come in the past few months. And I know it's hard when you're still not making money, but try to appreciate how far you've come and just keep working hard, like I know you all are. Also, for me personally, I try to appreciate 3 non-monetary things each day, because putting so much pressure on yourself for your work, this can be applied to honestly any job or any person, in that, we're so kind of tangled up in daily life that we kind of forget to appreciate the small things. So I really, really do try to appreciate 3 non-monetary things each day. For example, having a cup of tea, being able to have a sit down in front of air conditioning, just waking up in the morning and knowing that I have another day to achieve anything. Like, you can just wake up and have the best day ever. And I know that some days you wake up and you're just like, ugh. Honestly, that was me today, and I did not want to record this podcast, but I pushed myself to do it. And honestly, I'm so proud of myself that I'm sat here right now talking to you. I think it's hard to appreciate things with daily struggles, but it definitely does help me take a step back and really appreciate life a little bit more. Another massive thing for me when I feel like, I should be doing better or I could be doing better is to just think back to little me, my younger self. And honestly, she would be ecstatic if she could see what I was doing. She would be over the moon because younger me was obsessed with Zoella, obsessed with vlogging, obsessed with like makeup and beauty and everything like that. And if she could see that I was going to all of these skincare events, making makeup videos, having really good vlogs put out there, she would be so proud. So that's what I try to do when I feel like, okay, I'm not doing good enough. I just remember little younger me. She would be so happy and so proud of me right now. So you should also be proud of yourselves. Don't beat yourself up because you're not where you want to be. Everybody's timeline is different, and your little self would be absolutely overjoyed with all of the opportunities and all of the things that you're doing. So let's try not to take it for granted, but also don't let people take advantage of you at the same time. And lastly, it may not seem like it, but one day the hard work will pay off. This is what I like to keep thinking of when I'm really, really struggling, is that one day it's going to pay off. Surely one day it's going to pay off all of this hard work, working literally all moments of being awake. Surely it's going to pay off. Okay. And it's difficult to keep thinking like this because I see numbers go up and go down, people unsubscribe, people unfollow me. It's incredibly discouraging, but the way that I like to think about it is these people leaving, they're making space for people that appreciate you and appreciate your content more. So the people who maybe don't like your content anymore, they aren't interested anymore, they're leaving and they're just making room for people who are more like you and who appreciate you more to come along. So that is it for the main segment of the podcast. This is an extremely long episode, and if you've made it this far, oh my goodness, you are amazing. I love you so much for making it this far, and I really hope that this main topic segment of the podcast has helped some of you smaller creators feel seen and heard. And honestly, if any small creators want to reach out and talk to me anytime about this, I would be more than happy to talk to you. And for those of you who aren't creators but have listened to this, I hope you got more of an insight into our lives, our work lives, what actually happens in our daily lives and that sort of thing. So I really appreciate you listening. And as I said, I think I will bring up this topic again in a few weeks and bring on a guest to discuss it with, because I think it's definitely important to hear other people's stories at the same time. And if you have anything you want to add or ask me, please do leave me a comment down below and just send me a DM and I will try to read it. And yeah, so that's it for the main segment of the podcast. And lastly, we're going to be ending on this week in Korea. The Seoul Metropolitan Government has said that it will provide up to 2 million won, which is about $1,500, to women wishing to freeze their eggs from September 1st. So they're going to choose about 300 women, I think, who want to take part in this program with freezing their eggs. And hopefully it's expected to cover up to half of the fees required to carry out this process, in hopes to kind of help the current low birth rate problem in the country. And this program actually also applies to foreign women whose spouse is of Korean nationality. And so I'm glad that we get to end on such a nice piece of news. It would be amazing if it was more than 300 women, but honestly, it's amazing that this is even an opportunity, I think, at the end of the day. So yeah, not that I personally will be doing it, but I just wanted to end on a nice positive piece of news, I think. That's it for This Week in Korea. That was a flipping long episode of the podcast. It's literally gone dark outside because I've been talking for more than an hour. So if you made it this far, thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you do have any questions or anything you would like to ask, do leave it down below in the comments. I'll try my best to reply, or I will touch on that in a few weeks when I make another episode regarding this hopefully with a special guest. And so, yeah, that is it for this week's episode of A Cup of Laurinade. As always, I hope you're all having a wonderful day, evening, night, and that you're all healthy and happy. And I will see you in a new episode next week. Bye bye.